All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. All right, so here we go. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Christine Lee. Christine, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be on.
Awesome. So Christine is the founder and CEO of Mentaya, a company that helps private practice therapists grow their revenue and private play client base by leveraging out-of-network benefits to bring client costs down closer to a copay. They instantly check clients' benefits and automatically file out-of-network claims to help your clients get reimbursed. It's a win-win with Mentaya. Collect the full fee you deserve while significantly lowering costs for your clients. Christine is a strong advocate for mental health and left her job as a Google product manager to start Mentaya. All right, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
So before we go in here, Christine, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
So I'm from the Bay Area. So I grew up in San Jose, Palo Alto in the Bay Area. And then I am now in San Francisco. So not too far away from where I grew up.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about Mentaya and the details and the nitty gritty of it. But how did this start for you? How did this advocacy for mental health begin?
Yeah. So I unfortunately went to high school in Palo Alto with a lot of mental health issues. Teen suicides were pretty common at my school. And, as a teenager or preteen, I guess, starting high school, I didn't even really know what mental health was, I think, but I really just saw the impact that it had on people's lives. And it's honestly just stuck with me ever since. I ended up I went to Princeton, I studied computer science, but I actually dedicated my senior year to writing a thesis around how to use technology to actually help improve patient outcomes in mental health care, and have been following the mental health space really closely since. But really what made me start Mentaya was just wanting to make a difference in the space. I've seen other companies in the mental health space start popping up over the years. But one thing that stuck out to me was that a lot of these companies are making mental health care more accessible, but they're not really empowering therapists. And if anything, they're just paying therapists less in order to do that. And so that always felt weird to me because, we are dependent on therapists and mental health workers to sort of help us out of, especially during COVID, help us sort of with our mental health and deal with all of this. And we are basically punishing them by paying them less to make mental health care more accessible. And so with Mentaya, I wanted to do something different. We still want to make mental health care more accessible, but I wanted to do it in a way that also empowered therapists to run successful private practices and build a sustainable living for themselves, and not just, be paid very little for the work that they do. Right. So that was super important to me.
All right. But I want to go back a little bit because it's to be how you described it, to be a preteen, getting into that situation, going to that school, being surrounded. That's no joke. That's intense. How did you manage that yourself personally? With all, people around you, suiciding, as you said.
So yeah, this is, so I had actually, how I said I grew up in San Jose and Palo Alto. So I actually grew up in San Jose. I had moved to Palo Alto right around the time when this started happening for high school. And so I was very shocked to move to a new school, hear about all of this stuff. And I really don't think I knew how to process it. I think we all understood at my school that this was a thing. We kind of talked about it. People were like, oh, if you want to seek mental health care, if you need help, call these numbers or come to our school counselors. But it was back then when it was still a little stigmatized. It wasn't really as front and center as it is now. And it's a lot more destigmatized now, which is great. But I think back then it was kind of, you just knew that it happened and a lot of it didn't make the news, right? Like there were people struggling with a lot of mental health issues. I had friends dealing with things. And I think you kind of just do your best to support the people around you. But there's only so much you can do. And so that was kind of tough for me because I had friends going through stuff and, I tried my best to help support them. And some of them ended up okay. And some of them ended up not as great. So that was kind of just hard to see and just made me realize the importance of.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. So when you go off to college, to Princeton, are you thinking, what, I'm going to pursue computer science? Is the mental health things in the back of your head?
Yeah, it's actually funny. I wasn't like, oh, because of this, I am now super interested in mental health. I think I didn't even really know what mental health was. I was still kind of processing it, but I just had a natural inclination towards it. So I was always very interested in STEM, like science and math. I actually didn't want to study computer science because I was from the Bay Area. I was like, let me try something different. I don't want to just be in tech because that's sort of what I grew up around. Ended up doing it anyway because it was sort of where my interests lie. But I didn't want to just do tech for tech's sake. I felt like computer science and tech was sort of this tool that can enable me to make an impact in spaces that I cared about. And I think naturally I just gravitated towards even having friends who cared about mental health. And I always talked about it and I knew how important it was. And I went to therapy for the first time in college and I found it super helpful for me. And so I think it wasn't like a defining moment where I was like, now I am really interested in mental health care. It just was kind of always there. And I don't even know that I consciously realized it.
Right.
But I remember I actually took time off from college and I actually worked in venture capital for a little bit back in 2016. And I looked into the mental health care space. That was one of the few spaces I was like gung ho on. I was like, there needs to be more innovation here. There needs to be more companies in this area actually doing good. And it was pretty limited back then. It was just like some meditation apps and there weren't really any companies back then. And so even back then, I think I was really thinking about mental health and sort of had this vision around what I wanted the world to be like in this space.
So when you sat down, when you said, okay, I'm gonna move forward with this, I want to get into this space, and you founded Mentaya. First of all, I love the name. Does it have any significance? Because it just kind of rolls off your tongue there.
Yeah, Mentaya, I mean, kind of think of it as we wanted something that sounded like mental health, like mental, but in a way that felt more very positive and sort of light and very easy and not this like super long, complicated name because it is representative of our platform, trying to simplify things and make things easier.
Okay. So let's break it down.
Yes.
How does this help a therapist?
So I know a lot of therapists are always sort of asking, like, do I want to take insurance or do I want to be private pay? I know a lot of therapists want more private pay clients, but obviously, if you're not working with insurance, it's a lot more expensive for clients. And so what we do is we help therapists basically win over private pay clients who might be otherwise on the fence by helping clients understand their out-of-network benefits and use them to get reimbursed for therapy. And so, for example, if you're a therapist, let's say your fee is, I don't know, $200 a session, and you say, hey, my fee's $200, I don't take insurance. That's it. Or maybe I can give you a super bill and like you can figure all that stuff out yourself. Most clients are going to be like, that's kind of expensive. Like, I'm not really sure. But if you say, hey, look, my fee's $200, I know I don't take insurance, but that doesn't mean that you can't use your insurance to actually get reimbursed for my services. I can check your benefits for you immediately, see what they are, see how much you can get reimbursed. And then I work with Mentaya to actually submit claims for you and make sure that we're actually submitting these insurance claims to your insurance company, getting you reimbursed the amount you deserve, and helping bridge that gap between in-network and private pay therapy. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So when the therapist says in this example, I can help, I can look into this, basically Mentaya is doing the heavy lifting in this case.
We're doing, yes. We're doing. Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
So does the therapist sign on with you? How this is a subscription model? What kind of model is this? How does it
Yeah.
work?
So our platform, we have two main parts to our platform. We have an instant benefits calculator. So that's the thing I mentioned earlier, where you put in your information, insurance information, date of birth, et cetera, and we will immediately check someone's benefits. That is something that a therapist will pay a subscription fee for. It is $29 a month, and it is optional. It is month to month. You can cancel or pause anytime. And this is helpful for therapists who want to sort of help on their initial consultation calls and get clients over the fence to start therapy. So that's the first part. And that's the only part that therapists pay for. The second part is it's like, let's say you have this client, they have these out-of-network benefits. They're excited. They're like, yes, I'm ready to start. How do I actually use it? So our second part is we actually submit the claim for clients, and it's free for therapists, but we charge the client a 5% fee to cover the cost of submitting the claim. And not only submitting the claim, but it comes with a guarantee that we will get the claim submitted successfully to insurance, even if that means we have to call insurance, we have to push back on them, we have to resubmit the claims, the codes are wrong. We take care of everything around the claim submission. And we guarantee that it goes through, or we give a full refund of our fees to the clients.
Wow. So in this situation, again, you're doing all the work.
Yes.
Mentaya is doing all the legwork, right?
Yes.
Which a lot of therapists find laborsome, confusing, labyrinthian.
I mean, yes. I mean, there's a reason why therapists are like, here's a super bill, good luck. Like, call your insurance, here's some questions you can ask, go figure it out yourself. Most therapists just don't have the time or the bandwidth or just even desire to want to deal with any of the admin stuff. There's a reason why you want to have private pay clients. You don't want to deal with insurance. And we're sort of taking that burden off of you or your client. We take care of all of that so that you and your client can focus on therapy, which is presumably what you want to focus on and what you're really good at.
You said earlier on, you recognize there are a lot of mental health platforms out there, but you wanted to do something different. How would you say this is different? What you guys are doing is different or unique?
Yeah. So we're meeting therapists where they are. We're not trying to force them to take insurance. We're not trying to force them to get paid less. We are saying you get paid your full fee, whatever that may be, and we will help basically make your fee and your services more accessible to clients by using your clients' out-of-network benefits. So it's very much of do it your way rather than like forcing therapists to come into our system and do it our way. It's like, if you want to charge $150, you want to charge $300, you want to charge whatever fee you feel like you deserve and is sustainable for you, we will support you in that. And we're working with your clients to get them reimbursed so that your services can be as affordable as possible without you actually having to compromise on your pay.
It seems to me as though it gives therapists this kind of confidence and leverage to reach even more potential prospective clients.
Exactly. So you can think of it for clients as like, a lot of clients probably don't even realize they can get reimbursed for therapy. So they're just essentially overpaying or losing out on getting reimbursed thousands of dollars a year. And so those are for some clients. And for other clients, it might make the difference between whether or not they're able to even access your services, right? Like maybe, your full fee, they can't, but if they know they can get reimbursed, they are okay paying your full fee and getting that reimbursement. And that opens up access to a lot more clients.
Mm-hmm. When did you guys start?
We started in 2021. So it's been a few years.
Okay. And what have you found? What has been some feedback from therapists?
We generally get pretty good feedback from therapists. They love the product. I think the number one thing is everyone's always surprised at how easy it is, because you think, oh, here's some new platform. I have to learn it. It's going to be complicated. And all the product demos we've done, we give some product demos to therapists. Everyone's just like, is that it? Like, that's all? It's just you set it up and you like click this thing and that's it. I think that's pretty much that's the biggest piece of feedback we've gotten, which is, wow, this is so easy. Like I didn't realize that it could be so easy. And also we've heard a lot about how it's actually helped empower their practice. We take care of all of that. You don't have to ever stress about any of the insurance stuff, the out-of-network stuff. We take care of that. And it helps a lot of their clients ultimately feel comfortable, staying in therapy and not having to worry as much about the financial burden.
Let me just pause here to thank our sponsors. Again, we're speaking with Christine Lee, founder of Mentaya. We'll be back in 2 seconds. All right, Christine. So when a therapist, let's say a client calls up a therapist, blah, 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 does the therapist at that time inform the client of Mentaya, or how does that interaction work?
Yeah, so a lot of therapists actually, this is my favorite part. So therapists are like, I didn't realize how useful this would be in consultation calls, because usually, especially if you're private pay or you maybe don't take someone's insurance, inevitably some client will ask, do you take my insurance? Do you take insurance? And then it's this awkward, like, oh no, I don't. Here's my full fee. Oh, but you can, maybe look at super bills and whatnot. But instead, now what therapists say is, hey, look, I don't take your insurance, but if you have your insurance card ready on hand, I just need your name, date of birth, and insurance ID. And I can just look up your benefits immediately, tell you what you might be able to get reimbursed. And so you're basically keeping the client on the call. You tell them, hey, you might be able to get reimbursed, and this is how much you can get reimbursed. Mentaya will take care of all of this, or I work with a service that takes care of it. And you can basically convert the client on the spot to start therapy with you.
Wow. So give us an example of what that conversion might look like, what the difference is that Mentaya might bring.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That was actually what I was getting into, which is normally you say, hey, I don't know your benefits. You have to call your insurance company. Here are some, questions you can ask. I can give you a super bill. And then you just have to hope that the client is going to take time out of their day during business hours to go and call insurance companies for like an hour and be put on hold and switched around, and then come back to you and be like, hey, I'm still interested in seeing you. But in contrast, now you can basically skip that whole part and just tell clients their benefits on the spot, and then focus the conversation on, are we a good fit? Do you want to start therapy with me now that we've sort of gotten the financial piece out of the way?
Yeah, interesting. Again, it seems like you've thought about a lot of this, a lot of what therapists going through, and the awkwardness and trying to not only just avoid that, but kind of empower both the therapist and the client to, again, as you said, focus on what's going on here is the ability to get therapy and deliver therapy.
Yes. Presumably, therapists don't go into this to deal with admin work or insurance, right? Like, you want people. That is why you go into this job.
Right. So getting back to the whole landscape out there of online therapist providers, there's a lot of stuff going on there. When you decided to create Mentaya, how did you say to yourself, or in what way did you say, okay, I want to do something different? What did you see out there that needed to be done differently?
I think the main thing was, I think a lot about incentive alignment in healthcare. A lot of times in healthcare, incentives are not aligned. You either help the patient or you help the provider. It's rare where you sort of help both. And I thought a lot about this, and I was like, is there a way to sort of help both? Because all the stuff out there is like, we're making therapy cheaper.
Right.
But the way they do that is they pay therapists less to make therapy cheaper. And so I was like, there must be some way where we can try to do both. And then I found out about super bills and out of network benefits. And I was like, why don't people know about this? I was talking to a bunch of my friends all going to therapy. None of us knew that about or even understood out of network benefits. I mean, I can go on about the US healthcare system. It is crazy. And so they don't make it easy for people to understand. And so that's sort of where I got the idea, where I was like, ooh, this insurance is this complex space no one wants to deal with.
Right.
Therapists don't want to deal with insurance. That's why most therapists don't take insurance. And consumers have no idea how to use their benefits. And so I was like, we could really sort of fill this gap and empower therapists to work outside of the insurance system, but still use the insurance benefits for their clients to essentially subsidize part of the cost of therapy.
So for those listening, how would you define, or what are out-of-network benefits?
So out-of-network benefits are insurance benefits that most plans have, not all plans have it, but most plans have it, where if you see a therapist who is not in network or who does not take your insurance, you can still basically file an insurance claim with your insurance to get reimbursed for a portion of the cost of the services. So just because your therapist or any provider you see does not take insurance, that does not mean that you just pay their cash rate. You can pay their cash rate, but you can still get insurance to reimburse a portion of the cost.
Again, so it's the win-win just sounds trite to say, but it is. You're empowering both the client and the therapist here. So something that, I mean, therapists need to know about this.
Yes.
I mean, you're like, yes, they do.
But I think therapists, once they find out, they're like, where has this been? Or like, why haven't I heard about this? So yes, I completely agree.
Right. So who would you say is your kind of your target audience? Is it all therapists?
Our target audience is, and who we work really well with, are therapists in private practice who are either, there's a couple of different categories. There are therapists who take insurance, who like are pretty much fully in network. They take insurance, but they want to get more private pay clients. They want to sort of start getting off of insurance panels. That is a segment of therapists we work really well with. We also work really well with therapists who are, part insurance, part private pay, and want to just become entirely private pay and not have to deal with insurance or billing or any of that. And then we also work really well with therapists who are currently private pay and looking to grow in the private pay space. So if you're like, I'm trying to look for more private pay clients, or if you're like a solo practice growing into a group practice or a group practice trying to expand your practice, any therapist who is looking for more private pay clients, we work really well with. If you're like, I'm looking for more insurance clients, that's not really our target market. We are helping therapists with private pay clients specifically.
Okay. So as we kind of wind down here, therapist goes to mentaya.com, right? And what's the onboarding process? How does that work?
Oh, it's super easy. You go to mentaya.com, you basically go to the therapist page, you can look through it, you click get started, and then you sign up. And the sign up process is basically email password, verify your email, and then put in some things like your MPI and whether you're a group practice or a solo practice. And that's it. It takes literally 30 seconds or a minute to create an account. And then we also have a product demo you can book optionally if you want someone to walk you through how to set up your account. We have a dedicated support line that we respond very regularly to, but it's super easy to set up. And then we're also here to help and give any guidance that people need.
Wow. Awesome. All right, Christine. Amazing. I mean, it's kind of refreshing to hear of this product that is, again, both empowering the client and the therapist.
Yes. We really want it to be a win-win for both.
Awesome. All right. Look, I know a lot of therapists listening are going to be, okay, let me find out about this. What's the best way to contact you, Christine, or learn more about Mentaya, obviously?
Yeah. So our website is mentaya.com, mentaya.com. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can reach out to Christine at mentaya.com, or you can reach out to our support line, which we have faster responses to generally, which is just support@mentaya.com.
Awesome. All right. We'll have all this linked up at the show notes page at the traumatherapistpodcast.com. Christine, awesome. So inspiring. I mean, your story is really inspiring. And then just appreciate you coming on here and sharing this.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. We'll be in touch. Take care.
All right. Thanks.